Hello, welcome back to Leafy Life. I'm Susie and this channel is my space to share my love of houseplants.
In this house, I am tending to leafy life, reaching green and bending toward the light. Leafy life, this is my leafy life.
I'm all set today to make a terrarium. This isn't quite my first ever terrarium. I've done a couple of little ones about a month ago or so, one for a friend and one for my son as a sort of tester to just see how they go, and I've been gradually amassing all the ingredients that I feel I need to make a good terrarium. So I will talk you through all of those components in a minute, but I'll just show you this little one of my son's which he's lent back to me to show you. I'm quite certain that this is not perfect. I'm not an expert, but yeah, here it is. This is one of the little spice jars that I got that came with the rack, which you may have seen in the propagation rack conversion thing, which is still very happy over there. I've just given it a little tidy up because stuff happens and it gets all out of place. So it's been really nice to go through that just now and just look at lots of new growth and kind of declutter it and yeah, just kind of tidy because it's fun. So in here there are 3 different plants. You can probably see most clearly the Photonia. I have quite a few of these here as well in different colours to play with today. So it's just a single little cutting of a Photonia which has grown. I am pleased to say this seems to be successful. I can't see any mould and nothing has died, so I'd call that a win so far. My son has taken the lid off a couple of times because it's very hard when you're 6 to not want to peep in and check on things, but he does understand that we're trying to keep the keep it, what is even the word I'm looking for? Words fail me, but yeah, he knows now that we're keeping it contained to keep the moisture in and help it form its own little ecosystem thing. I am not the person you need if you want scientific terms and explanations. I'll do my best though to help you know everything you need if you want to have a go at this yourself, but that's coming up later. So yeah, it's got the Photonia, it's got some Peperomia verticulata, that's the one with the red undersides of the leaves there, and that looks really fine. It looks perky, it's not drooped or anything, and it has grown. It's definitely taller than when I put it in there. And then we've got, can you see that little green one next to it? It looks like a bit of cress. It's not. It's a little sprig of, what do they call it? Is it Pilea glauca? I will put the name on for you because I always forget this one. But yeah, it's those 3 plants in there. They have taken, they must have rooted. I can't see any roots around the side at the moment, but yeah, they've probably gone down into the moss and I don't think they'll be coming out towards the side at the moment. At the bottom I've got a sort of lacquer equivalent. These are some aqua stones which I got from the Coombe Garden Centre, and they seem to do a really great job for just keeping the soily substrate up off the bottom of the terrarium, because we don't want it sitting where any moisture might soak down. Because that could cause mold and whatever. Yeah, there's some moss in there. It's just moss that we've found out and about. Nothing, I feel like it felt a bit naughty, like collecting moss from the wild, because I want it to kind of like, you know, I don't want impact on the natural world by my planty shenanigans. But this is on a patch of tarmac by the school, and I feel like no one's going to miss it too much, and I'm not taking like wagon loads. But yeah, this is just some, I think it's some feather moss in here, and it's definitely grown. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it's kind of got these little, yeah, I'll try and put a photo in. Basically, there's the level of the moss, and then it's sort of gone upwards in little strands, so it's growing up. There's a little piece of mossy bark in there. I don't think you're able to see because it's small and it's a bit dark in there. And yeah, so my layers, I'll just take you through, are the stone layer, and then a sort of a netting layer. This is actually old tights. It's all I had at the time. I've now got something better, which I'll show you. And then it's got the sort of soily substrate, so that's sort of my normal soily mixture with some perlite and some orchid bark and little stony bits. It just needs to be well aerated and free draining. And then it's got the moss layer, and then the plants, and obviously any decoration you want, like the bits of logs and what have you. So yeah, that's my first one. I feel really encouraged that that one's doing well, and my friend Rosanna said that hers is also doing well, and so that's really, really great. So onwards we go. So my main priority today is to get this beastie planted up. It's actually very light and it's quite thin glass, but it's a really great size, and I'm excited to hopefully produce something beautiful inside of this. And yeah, this was actually very cheap from my local tip recycling centre, and yeah, basically worked out when I bought several pots and things at the same time, and it worked out to kind of like under £1 per pot, including this. So that was rather a bargain, and I've been really excited to get it planted up. But it's just been a bit of a while coming. Mostly because I needed to do some research first. I've been watching some really great videos on YouTube. There's quite a few, well, there's loads of people doing terrariums on YouTube, actual experts, people who have loads of experience of doing different things with paludariums and terrariums and all sorts in between. And yeah, if you want to hear an expert view and get all the sort of really good tuition on YouTube, then I will put some links up down below in the comments, so that you can see some of the ones that I was inspired by and who I learned from. And yeah, there's just some really knowledgeable people out there, and as ever, YouTube is just such a great place to learn from and pick up tips and skills, and get a bit of confidence to try something for yourself. So that's where I was at for a while, was just kind of swatting up on some lovely YouTubey terrarium videos, and I found it very relaxing actually. Even if you're not going to make a terrarium yourself, I would highly recommend watching some terrarium builds on the particular channels that I'm going to list, because they are just really satisfying and tranquil to see happening before your eyes. So yeah, so I was learning about what was needed, how to do it, and then just taking time to sort of see where I wanted to buy certain ingredients from, and sourcing bits and bobs here and there, just kind of in a relaxed but excited manner, just gradually accumulating the bits and bobs that I feel I need. So I probably have more plants than I need, certainly for one terrarium. Obviously I don't want to cram everything I have into one and make it just really cluttered and crazy, because it will grow. So I'm hoping to sort of, yeah, just, I haven't planned a layout yet, so I've just gathered everything together, and I'm just going to be looking at it with a more critical eye now and seeing what I think goes well together, what works in the space, and I will have plenty of leftovers for other projects. As you see, I've got more of these little tiny ones, and I'm going to be doing a couple of these maybe for myself and for friends, or yeah, so for presents, and just see where the plants lead me, I suppose. So before I actually get layering up the terrarium, I wanted to just talk you through the plants I have available to me today. There's a lovely selection of plants you can choose from. There's so many really cool plants that I don't have, that I might try in the future, that I've seen other people working with, but I'm really excited about the plants that I have here today. I've bought some especially, you saw me buy a couple at the Coombe Garden Centre actually, which will make an appearance here again in a moment. So to start with, I have quite a lot of Photonia in different colours. I've got a couple of the motley green ones, I've got a more red one, although this one has faded a bit. It was quite a deeper red and now it's more of a mid pink, and then I've got a few of the very pale pink which are looking almost white on camera. So yeah, selection of Photonia. Next I have this little fern, Asplenium crispy wave. So yeah, I'd really like to put that in this big jar. I have a little jewel orchid. This is Macody's Patola and it's the discolour green velvet. That has grown since I've had it here at home. It's actually been sitting in the big glass jar because I figured why not, let's start acclimatising it to a slightly more confined life, and it seems quite happy. So there we go. And then last of all, I have more of this Pilea glauca that you saw in the little terrarium I showed you that had already been finished. So this is actually a good opportunity to show you a bit of a close-up. Okay, it does look a bit like crest, doesn't it? It's got nice pinky stems and they're actually quite silvery leaves, quite reflective, but it doesn't really pick up on camera. But they're perfect for keeping, it's actually quite good to keep this as sort of under cover. I don't have a cabinet or anything, but it does like humidity and it's perfect in a terrarium. So I've been keeping it under a little plastic lid to give it a nice bit of humidity, and it's been really happy like that. And then, so I'm just keeping it as a sort of harvestable plant, if that makes sense, so that when I want a sprig of it for a little terrarium, I can just come along and take a cutting and plop it in. I nearly forgot the last plant. It's in a little screw lid tub upside down. It's been in there probably about a month or more and it's really happy. I'm gonna have to check its name because I always forget it, but it's something or other quercifolia. Hold on. No, it has gone out of my brain. I'll pop it on. Yeah, but quercifolia as in leaves like an oak leaf. And you can see why. Isn't it adorable? That's the size of the leaves next to my fingernail. So cute. This is absolutely adorable. When I saw this on somebody's terrarium video, I just fell in love and tracked it down on eBay. So that was an exciting day when that arrived. And again, it came in some sphagnum moss and I've just been keeping that damp and it's been in completely terrarium-like conditions, as you can see. Slightly frosted, I guess, because of the nature of the plastic box, but that's all I had. Sorry, I might as well come back down here. Yeah, that's all I had, and it's been really happy. So it's now available to use, and I haven't decided, as I said, I haven't decided which things are going in which containers, because I feel like I have sort of riches here, plant-wise, and I don't want to waste them by cramming them all in together. I'd like to appreciate them visually for themselves and just kind of set them off as nicely as I can. So yeah, I'm going to have a little think. What I might just do is just go over all the plants, and if there are any brown leaves or dead leaves like these on the Photonia, just a few, I'm just going to clear those out. And actually, not that it really matters because I'm not going to be planting. Actually, yeah, it depends on the size of the terrarium. So for this big terrarium, I could just sort of unpot this and plop it in, and it would be really happy. Or if I wanted little bits of it dotted around, I can take cuttings. So yeah, I think I just need to get experimenting and playing with it really. As it's getting near 5 o'clock, the light is suddenly dipping, so I've had to move over here to the windowsill so you can see what I'm doing a bit easier. So I'm just going to set up here and we're going to get going. This is my moss library, so nicely labelled by my son. We have cushion moss and feather moss. We've got some more cushion moss here. I'll show you a bit of a close-up. This is a nice little wad of it. There we go. You can see all the little floretty star-shaped bits. Yeah, really satisfying to hold and touch. It's very strokeable. So yeah, I've washed all of that and I've been keeping it damp in a clear box with a lid on for quite a few weeks actually, just checking on it occasionally. This is freshly washed. This has been sitting here for a while and it's actually grown quite a bit. And this one actually, this is the one that's grown the most. You can see the height in there, all strandy. So I might put, actually, yeah, I think I'll put some of that one in today. This is my window screen gauze net stuff. And it's to stop the soil falling down into the lacquer type stuff, or your stones, whatever you choose to use as your bottom layer. To mix into my soil mix, I'm also adding some horticultural charcoal. So I have a bag of it there to just stir in. This really helps with just making sure that nothing rots and molds, keeps everything healthy and lovely and clean. I'm just spreading out my gauze here. I've got paper underneath it because the worktop doesn't really want to have Sharpie on it. I'm just going to be drawing a circle around my glass jar around the bottom as a template, so I know the size to cut the gauze. I'm going to make sure it's just slightly too big, because if I make it a bit too small or just the right size, there is more of a risk of substrate bits of soil falling down the sides. So this just makes it a bit more snug and makes sure that we don't get that crossover of layers. So I'm just going to draw around it, trying not to draw on the jar. It's just loose, it doesn't have to be exact because I can neaten it up as I go when I snip. There we go, that's good enough for me. Put that to one side, and where have my scissors gone? Well, they've disappeared, so I have some more, thankfully. So I'm just going to cut this out roughly, just separating it from the rest of the pack of gauze, so I can do an easier job. There we go, filling that out of the way. Oh, and look, lo and behold, there were the scissors all along. That is so typical of me. I'm always covering up my things. Oh my goodness, you see how much that stretches? So my circle is now rather potato shaped. That's okay. Like I said, it doesn't have to be exact. We're not going for a perfect circle. We're just going for roughly slightly bigger than the circle of the bottom of the jar. So snippety snip. Okay, that's all cut out. Okay, I think I'm all set. I think I've everything I need. Oh, this is really exciting. Let's go for it. So the first layer is the drainage layer. So for me, I've got aqua stones, but you could use gravel, stones that you collect from outside. Just think about the size of the container that you're using and make sure that you don't use really big stones in tiny vessels. So I'm gonna start layering it up. I'm just going to do it very gently because I don't want it to smash the jar. Okay, all the stones. I feel like that's enough because it's completely covered the glass and nothing else will be able to get down in amongst that. Fruit bowl and baking tray. There we go, it's a bit higher for you to see a bit clearer. So I'm going to start getting this substrate in. That is instantly so much easier to then drag around the gauze and get it into place so that it's not got any gaps around the edges. It is quite stretchy stuff because of the sort of fine weave. It's made it naturally quite stretchy. Now, because this is quite a nice generous sized jar, it means that I can play around a bit more with the height. It's nice and tall. I'd like to make use of the height rather than everything sitting at the same level. So I'm thinking that I'm going to landscape it up the back of the jar a bit more. So this is a good point at which to choose which is the back. That's quite messy there, so I'm just going to catch that fold. So yeah, I think this will be the back because it's got this extra bit of gauze. There's some bits trying to escape down there, which is a bit tricky. There we go. I just went back a stage because I realised that I had a little gap where things were getting down, the soil was getting down to the stones, and I just, as it's the first big terrarium I've done, I want to make sure I give it the best start possible and avoid any bits that could kind of get mouldy later. So I've gone back to just the lacquer stage, and I think I found a better way to get the soil in there without it dripping down the sides. So I've got a new piece of gauze that is actually slightly bigger, because I think that was the problem. It needed to be even bigger than I thought. And I'm just going to get a handful of it into the middle and just fold it up like a little sack and then lower it in, because I think it's just going to avoid any stuff escaping from the edges, I hope. Just going to make sure it's even and I don't have any random pockets of bits where it's sort of shorter. Okay, please don't escape this time. Ah, that's much better. So there we go, you can learn with me and you can avoid my pitfalls because I'm doing them first. Oh, did it again, but not so bad, that was just a crumb. I should also say I bought some tools for making this a bit easier. I got some long handled tweezers and some long scissors. And I don't know where they've gone. This is quite typical of me, that sometimes I put something aside, ready, all kind of like safely tidied away, and then I can't remember where I put it. It's not where I thought it was. So yeah, have to manage without this time, and then hopefully by the next time I do another terrarium I will have them handy, because they're not just good for creating terrariums but for maintaining terrariums. So once things grow up, if they need sort of trimming back, you can reach in with the scissors, or you can pull things out if necessary with the tweezers, because as you can see it's quite awkward getting your whole hand in there. So I'm just nudging that gently to the edges and it just pushes out the gauze, and then I can just kind of push that down a little bit at the edges, so that's nicely in.
I'm not really keen on the look of the netting coming up so high against the sides, so next time I'll use something a bit less flimsy, get some proper gauze window screen mesh, so that it can just sit more flat and more rigid as a layer between, rather than needing to come up the side so much.
So I think I'm going to start building up the back, the higher ground now. So yeah, I think this is going to be my front here. So I'll let you guys have the front towards you. I'm just going to build up a bit at the back now. Probably need a bit more at the front as well, actually. And like I said, I'm not an expert at this, and there are people out there who know a heck of a lot more about doing this and who have done it countless times and are brilliant at it. And there are lots of wonderful houseplant shops doing workshops on this as well. In fact, I am booked in to go to one at Hutch Houseplants in Exeter, and that's really exciting. So I think I will iron out a lot of my questions there, and that'll be fun to come home with another one. Right, I think I'm going to use all of this. It's probably slightly deeper than I need it just there. Just put that out of the way. How did that go in there? Plop. won't tip it in because it will make a mess, but there we go. I'm wondering if I need a bit more soil than I've got. Let's have a look. So if we imagine the height of this, that's the front, and then a bit higher at the back. And I've got a little bit of a mossy log here to add in as well. So I was thinking maybe like up the middle or to one side, sort of near the back. Just see how high that comes up. And you've got the cork lid to add in as well. So yeah, so I don't want to fill it up too high because obviously we need to allow room for the plants to grow. I think that's a fairly good height actually, and it gives you a fairly good view. Yeah, I think I'm going to just add another handful of soil, so I'm just going to go mix it up a sec. Okay, I've got it. So I'm going to add a bit more at the top, at the back. I think just with such a large terrarium, I don't want to feel like I've skimped on anything because I don't want to be going in and having to adjust this anytime soon, so I just want to give it the best start that I can. There we go. How's that looking? A bit more at the back, maybe? Yeah, I think that's a bit more where I want it to be. Get rid of that. So with some terrariums, it can work to put the moss in first and then like make little holes or use the gaps between the clumps of moss to put the plants in there. But I think sorry, what was that? Scissors leaping off the counter. Because I've got some bigger plants and it's a bigger space, I think I'm going to plant them in the soil straight away and then sort of lay the moss like carpet patches around that. And the joy about them being in smaller bits is that you can kind of, I mean, you can just rip them apart and get smaller bits anyway, but you can kind of tailor it and make sure it all fits in really snugly to make a nice carpet. So I'm going to start playing around with the layout of the plant, so bear with me. I might just faff around happily with this for a bit until I've got it how I like it. I thought I'd just let you know what my choices of plant are. So I'm going with the little fern. It's so bright green and lovely, so that will be a great sort of highlight one. I'm going to go with the jewel orchid, so it's a bit of contrast of two different greens. And I've got over here this little what's the name? Come on brain, Fittonia. So yeah, again, the bit of the nice sort of variation between the white and the green. I think this will be a nice group of plants. I think what I'm going to do is, I'm just weighing up whether I want to plant the plant in there or whether I want to take cuttings and sort of dot them around a bit more, which I think I will do, because if I wasn't doing the jewel orchid and the fern, and I didn't have such a sort of bigger plants to sort of clump in there, I think then the Fittonia would need to go in whole and it would fill the space really nicely. But I think because I've got these two as well, which obviously I'm not going to just take cuttings from those, they need to stay complete as they are, so they're going to fill up the space more, and then I think that the Fittonia will complement those by having little pieces of it dotted around. We will see. And then I'm going to put in just a few little stems of the pilea as well. I've got two types of moss here. This one is cushion moss, and there's some nice pieces of that in there, and then this one, this might be cushion moss as well, or it might be feather moss. Yeah, I think this is feather moss. Yeah, and it's growing beautifully. This is the one I showed you earlier, and I'm just going to take a piece out now to show you because it's just gorgeous. Actually, it's a bit on the dry side, so I'm just going to give it a little drink. It's not dried out properly, but I just think it could do with a little drink. Let's try not to break it up. Okay, there we go. So there we are. It's quite tall. You can trim your moss. You can get your scissors and go across it. You can also trim underneath it. So if it's really bulky underneath and there's just too much root, you can just give it a trim. But yeah, I'm going to stick with this at this length because I think it just looks really happy, and I've got a lot of height to work with anyway, so it's not going to get in the way of anything. So yeah, I'll give that a squeeze out before I use it in a minute. But I'm not adding that in straight away anyway. So yes, tinkering resuming. This may divide opinion here, but I have to say straight out, I do not like sphagnum moss. Oh, it's so fiddly getting it out from between these roots. I'm glad to get out of its pot though and out of its moss though, because I can see a black root there and I'm concerned. I don't want it to go up into the plant, so I'm just going to trim this off, get as much moss off it as I can and get it in the terrarium. Okay, so I'm really happy with the layout now of the fern and the orchid, and I think I'm going to put the moss in next because I want to form that carpet and then put the Photonia cuttings in, because they're just going to be a little bit of stem that is going to just sit and it will happily root in amongst the moss. So I'm going to take the cuttings of the Photonia ready. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing. So I'm cutting out the tips of the plant. So that's what we're left with, ready to use. So if I was doing a tiny terrarium, I'd just use the very top section, but I'm keeping those bigger leaves on, and I've just snipped the stem there, and it's just going to sit, and that little bit where the stems come in will sit just level with the moss. So I think I'm going to get the moss in now, and then I'll add in the Photonia, and I am also going to add in some of the Pilea, so I will be snipping some bits of this in a minute to add in. Lovely bit of moss. I think what I'm going to do to sort of accentuate the height and the slope is to put the more feathery tall moss at the back and then some more of the cushion moss at the front. Bit tricky trying to get it in behind the log, but I'm going to do that. Eek. Wooden spoon. That actually worked really well. So I'm just kind of forming a patchwork of moss. Because I've now placed the plants and the log, I don't really want to get my hands deep in there apart from at the front. I don't want to get properly in there because it's just going to disturb everything. So I'm just plopping in little bite-sized bits of moss and just kind of trying to fill up the surface area. I have to just say, this is probably the most pleasing bit, is once you're getting the moss in, it really suddenly starts to feel like a little world in there. I'll give you a better view in a little while because you can't see what I'm doing around the back. Oh, well, I could just turn around. So, whoa! Okay, maybe I shouldn't have moved it, but you can see I'm adding in the moss there. It's starting to look rather lovely.
What are you guys doing?
Serving up the dinner, my sweetheart.
It's so much things.
Yeah, and have you seen what it looks like when it's by the light? It's really pretty, isn't it? So I've got lots of moss in now. I'm just going to come down and do the front bit of moss to show you putting it in at the front, and then I'm going to put in the cuttings in amongst the moss. Hi, Sweet Pea.
What are you doing with yours? Yours is looking really pretty.
At this point I was able to just gently poke the little cuttings in through the moss. I used the end of a paintbrush, a nice narrow one, to kind of just wiggle a little hole to make a place for the cutting to just nestle down into, so it wasn't just sitting on top of the moss, and just played around with it until I was happy with it. I've decided that I really want to use the quercifolia after all, and I'm gonna see if I can get it going up this log. This is one of the 2 strands that I've been keeping in sphagnum moss. I've just taken that all off, and there's a couple of lovely long white roots which were not there when it arrived, so that's really good. I'm not sure if I ripped off any more when I was removing the sphagnum moss, but did my best, and yeah, it's gonna go on in there now. Actually, I think it needs to go on this side of the bit of bark because the jewel orchid here is quite dark, and I think it would just balance out the different brightnesses of green. So I'm going to pop it in amongst there. It's in. And then around this side of the log, I think I'm going to put some of the Pilea glauca, just to have something extra, giving it some height up the log there. The glauca just needs to have one of its nodes or junctions level with the top of the moss. And it's finished! I love it! Then it was ready for a light spray with plain water, and just being careful not to completely saturate it. It really just wants a tiny bit of water to get damp rather than properly moist. And dry off the glass with some kitchen roll to get rid of the excess water. And pop the lid firmly in place. That needs to stay on generally, but you can take the lid off every few days maybe, for about 5 minutes or so to let in some fresh air. Well, as you can probably tell by the lighting, it is now much later in the evening. The little people are in bed, and it's been an eventful evening, but in between all sorts of other shenanigans, I did get the terrarium finished, and amazingly, perhaps even more amazingly, the kitchen is now all cleared up. I made a total mess, and I needed to do dinner alongside the mess making, and a lot of chaos ensued, so yeah, there was a lot of mess to clear up, but I do feel like now I have a bit more of a handle on how to build a terrarium and what it involves, and just I feel a bit more familiar with my ingredients and my tools. Hopefully I will find my actual terrarium tools before I really need them again. But yeah, I wanted to just show you the terrarium in situ. It is here now in the kitchen, and looking very lovely. Being electric light at night, it's not going to give you the best view of all the plants in there, but I thought I'd just show it to you where it is now going to be living. So it's just next to the kitchen window, so there I don't think there would ever be direct sun on this particular area, but it's a very bright patch, so it's going to get lots of bright and direct light, but it's not going to be scorched. So that's rather lovely, and it's prompted me to have a bit of a kitchen tidy up and a bit of a change round of some other plants and bits and bobs, so that always feels nice. So yeah, I'm really pleased that I've done it, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more. I'm going to just tell you a couple of other things before I finish. That's better. I just wanted to sit down out of the bright lights. One of the things I didn't tell you about in the beginning was that I had planned to and hoped to add Springtails to my terrariums, which I will order ready for any future projects, because I think it'd be really nice to introduce those and sort of create more of a little ecosystem. Springtails are tiny little
kind of white or pale beigey insects. They are just very beneficial to the health of soil. They break down old rotting material, so if there is anything like a dead leaf in a terrarium, they'll help to sort of act on that and stop it creating mold. Yeah, so that would be really nice to add those. My son did actually find a few in his snail tank, so we've popped those in a little lunchbox with some soil, but actually they are quite tiny, and then we couldn't see them. So I'm just going to keep an eye on that over the next few days, and if I see any crawling around in the soil, I can lift them and plop them into the terrarium.
There's a springtail there.
Where?
There. It's going into that hole. And it's out again.
I can't see them.
It's there, it's there, it's there.
Okay, I see it,
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is now obviously sealed up, and I prefer not to be opening it too regularly, but I will order some springtails, and I will show them to you at some point on this channel, I expect. I feel like I potentially have missed out a few things, so if anything else comes to mind, I'll add it into the comments. Anything that I bought to help with this project and future terrariums, I will try to list in the comments so that you can access those yourselves. I think that is everything I can think of right now, except to say that I will aim to show you the progress of this terrarium in the coming weeks, months, maybe even years if it gets that far. It would be really nice if it stays happy and healthy and things grow. I'd love to avoid mold in the terrarium, so yeah, I'll just be keeping a lookout, make sure everything stays healthy, and hopefully it'll just sustain itself with moisture levels. I will post some videos, as I said, for you guys to enjoy, some really nice terrarium type channels. There are some channels on YouTube who specialize completely in terrariums, and they are a total joy to watch and very relaxing, and I defy you not to want to build a terrarium or paludarium or something along those lines after watching those videos. I made a tiny terrarium along the way with my 3-year-old because she came in when I was sort of in the middle of doing bits and bobs, and I thought I would show her the process. So we layered it up together, and she requested the most pink photonia, so she was really delighted with that, and she wanted some of the little acorn cups, which are very cute in a terrarium. I've got a few more of those. Obviously it is autumn, so there's plenty to be found out and about. If you're wanting to gather things that will work as a sort of ornamental little extra detail element in your terrariums, then yeah, gathering some acorn cups before they get sort of mashed into the ground. Yeah, I think that's everything. As I said, sorry, I'm a bit tired. It's been a busy day, and it's quite late, and I'm just really happy with my terrarium, and I think it looks beautiful. It's been sitting there, that empty jar, for so many weeks, in anticipation of being filled, so it feels really nice to have it filled now and have it all lovely. Yeah, I'll keep you posted, and good luck with yours, and feel free to post any tips or comments or questions or recommendations. Oops, sorry. Yeah, in the comments if you've got anything you want to add, yeah, any queries, or you want advice, or you've got things to share if you've done it before. So really just thank you for joining me on this video and coming along while I made my terrarium. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and yeah, if you did, please like and share and follow and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye.